Hello, Gen Genies. It's me, Julie.
And Rich.
Before we get started today, we want to let you in on some exciting news. We have launched our new Patreon page for the podcast.
Woohoo! We are super excited about this new chapter for CutOff Jeans.
So, Patreon is a website where listeners like you can pledge a small monthly amount. We're talking only $5 or $10, guys, to support the podcast and help defray the cost of bringing you the show each week.
To be clear, CutOff Jeans will continue to be absolutely free. But to thank you for your support, we are going to offer our patrons some fun little extras.
Like early access to the podcast every week, where you'll get to hear the latest episode before it's released to the general public.
And why not make your friends jealous with exclusive patron-only CutOff Jeans swag?
Fancy. And here's something you guys have been asking for, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to host a monthly, hour-long, online Ask Me Anything session where patrons at the $10 level can literally ask me anything.
Anything? You're a brave woman, Julie.
You know, I know. I'm also going to give access to my blog, Are You My Father?, where I tell the story of my search, actually it's my life story basically, for my biological father in even more detail than I did on the podcast.
Wow, your blog was the original inspiration for CutOff Jeans, wasn't it?
It was.
Wow. Well, all patrons at any level will receive a shout out on the podcast along with our undying gratitude for your support.
Yep. You guys know that this show is a labor of love for me. It's something I'm very passionate about. It'd mean so much to me if you would consider supporting our work here on the podcast by going to patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
That's Patreon, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
We'll add a link to it on the podcast and on the Facebook page. Thank you all, my Gen Genies.
And now, on with the show.
Woo!
Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip, hip, hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Jeans.
Welcome to CutOff Jeans, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I am a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the co-host and producer of this podcast. How are you, Julie?
I'm fine.
What does that mean?
I'm feeling a little stimulated right now.
You've got some weird little machine on you.
I have a device.
A device.
I have a device on my shoulder because I'm old.
No, it's not why.
Okay, let's see if the mic can pick this up. Ready? Can you hear it?
I do. I hear like a little clunk. Clunk.
Yeah, that's the bones in my shoulder.
Ugh.
Nice, huh?
It's not an injury, is it? Or, I mean, like, did you hurt it? Did you fall? Or
No, it happens.
It does?
Yeah, it's just one of those aches and pains that have to do with being over a certain age.
I know, but usually our aches and pains are not that loud, unless we're complaining about them.
Consider the source, my friend.
My goodness.
How are you?
I'm, considering all that's going on in the world, I'm healthy.
Okay,
that's all we
good.
can ask for.
That is all we can ask for.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
So let's talk about this for just a second.
Oh, I know.
You're going to lose your mind. So, my daughter is at college.
Yes, that's
and
right.
It's almost spring break. And she is afraid that if she comes home for spring break, she won't be allowed to go back. Or she's afraid that they're going to lock them down on campus. There are no cases there. There is one in Wellesley Village.
Yes.
But there are no cases of it. But she is freaked out that she graduates in May. And so she's scared that it's going to get locked down and she's not going to get to graduate.
Oh, no.
So she's freaking out. On the reverse of that, guess where my husband is?
Where?
On a cruise ship.
No, he is not. What's he doing on a cruise ship without you?
Remember that nerd cruise that we go on every year?
Yes.
He went without me this year.
Oh my God.
And took my brother-in-law.
Wow.
But yeah, he's like, I'm going. So
really?
Uh-huh.
Well,
what are you going to do? I mean, there is the chance of them being quarantined for 2 weeks. For so far, so good. There's been no talk of anything, but a third cruise ship has been quarantined.
Really?
By the way, but not theirs. They all seem to be Princess for some weird reason.
Well, because isn't that one of the biggest cruise lines?
They're on another one that's just as big.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But So yeah,
I
there
think
you
this
go.
is going to decimate the cruise industry. I'm sorry.
I think it's going to decimate everything.
Yeah.
I really do. And not to be a,
Cassandra.
what does that mean?
She was the woman that was always saying everything bad is going to happen. The world is falling apart.
Where? Who?
I want to say it's from a myth. I want to say it's a Greek myth.
Oh.
I'm going to have to look it up.
I thought you were mispronouncing Debbie Downer.
Wah, wah. Yes, Debbie Downer is a Cassandra.
Yeah.
Hasn't anybody ever called you a Cassandra?
No.
Maybe it's because of your sunny outlook.
I am the outlook, yes, but I'm actually the most negative of all people that you'll ever meet. So yeah, I'm a bit of a pessimist.
Okay, well, I don't see that in you, but I think maybe you're more
that's
self-conscious
because I'm a
about
dichotomy.
You're that too, a pessimist and a dichotomy and a Cassandra?
All of the above.
Wow. No, I think that all equals to a swirling maelstrom of feminine superiority.
Supremacy. I have to get that on a t-shirt.
Supremacy.
Maybe that should be the next bumper sticker. It won't mean anything to anybody but the listeners.
This is true.
Even if they remember.
Yes.
Yes.
So we can say all of our Gen Genies are swirling maelstroms of feminine supremacy, except for the men. We'll say masculine supremacy, but then that sounds like they're bragging.
Swirling maelstroms, maybe just of supremacy.
There you go. But then,
although I enjoy the feminine part because I think supremacy is feminine.
Well, I don't want it to say supremacy because I don't want it to be linked to like white supremacy.
That's true. Supremacy has a different connotation now, doesn't it?
It does. Unfortunately, they ruined it for the rest of us.
That's why you have to put feminine in front of it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
All right. I'm glad we worked that out.
Maybe that's why I always go to feminine superiority rather than supremacy.
Because you feel uncomfortable saying that word.
Or I just feel inferior to. That's why.
All right.
Inferior to women. Women are stronger. Women are, they should rule the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think the reason why women are kept down is because men are afraid of them.
That is, I will agree with you. And smash the patriarchy. Okay. So, yeah. Hey, remember I was going to RootsTech?
Yes, I want to hear all about it. I saw a couple of pictures you posted on Facebook, but I haven't heard about your time there. So let's talk about it.
Well, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was, as we've talked about, I'm quite overwhelmed with crowds, but I did really well. I actually do better when I'm behind a barrier and the crowds are on the other side of said barrier.
Well, what barrier were you behind?
A table.
Oh, well, that's all right.
A glass wall.
I
was in a cage.
I feel more comfortable when I'm sitting behind a piano talking to people than I do if I were when I get up and start talking to them.
Yeah, you're like one of those singers who has to have a guitar even though he doesn't play it. But you do play the piano.
I do play the piano.
I know.
But it is like there's something, I'm doing something, so I have a reason to be there and talk to somebody as opposed to like just meeting them at a party.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
I cannot do anything unless I'm going to be able to accomplish two things at one time.
Really?
Isn't that sad?
Well,
It's true. It's true. All right, so let's break down RootsTech. You should ask me questions.
Well, how was RootsTech? Were there a lot of people
done.
there?
There were so many people there,
Really?
More people than I ever imagined. So the place is huge. Michael Cassandra, who's a listener, told me we were supposed to meet up and we ended up not being able to, which is crazy. But he told me the place smells like roasted chestnuts.
Why is that?
Because they sell roasted chestnuts there. Oh. But there's only really one stand, but the whole place smells like it, and I think it's a Disney trick.
What do you mean they pump it into the atmosphere to make you want to buy it?
To make you just feel. There's something about the smell of roasted chestnuts that gives me comfort.
Were they over an open fire?
I don't know. I didn't get close enough to them.
Okay. You didn't buy any and take some home?
I didn't buy any. What's wrong with that?
I don't know.
I bought some sushi, which is probably not a good thing to do in Salt Lake. But hey.
It's a little bit far from the ocean, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, where did that fish come from?
Yeah.
All right, so the first day was Wednesday, and it started at 5 p.m. and went from 5 to 9. And that was just the
like
exhibits.
Meet and greet, or no?
Yeah, well, it was the first day that the exhibit hall was all open.
I see, yes.
Which is huge.
Right.
And so we were now, most of the exhibitors have some kind of, like they try to tempt people with candy or freebies or something to get them to come to their booth.
Or roasted chestnuts.
Precisely. And my company really goes crazy with the swag. We have like a wheel that you spin and you can win various
I like that. I like swag.
Things. Yeah. Well, yeah. And so here's what happened. Apparently, the RootsTech powers that be decided that it was going to be a little light that night. So they tweeted out to Salt Lake City in general to bring everybody on down to RootsTech. And I don't know if they specifically tweeted it to youth ministers or youth groups in the various wards. It's Salt Lake, so they're Mormon wards. But I have never seen so many tweens in one place at one time at a genealogy convention.
Frankly, it sounds like a nightmare. I don't mean the whole convention.
Don't get me started. Okay,
I just mean the tweens.
So let me tell you, it didn't bother me. And I will say, I am definitely one of those people that I love my kids. I don't love everybody else's kids.
Right.
Especially tweens, guys. Sorry. But so one of the things that we were giving away was a beach ball that says birth parent finder on it. A stupid beach ball.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so some kids got a hold of beach balls, and all of a sudden there was like some kind of a message throughout the hall that we had beach balls. So kids just started coming in from out of the woodwork. I called it the purge, coming in from out of the woodwork to get, and they would like pretend that they were just really interested in what we were about, but they would do the side eye towards the beach balls.
Now where's my beach ball?
But they'd be like, hey, and I wouldn't, and I'm an awful person. I would just look at them, wait for them to say something. Or like, so what's this about? I'd be like, we're birth parent finders. Would you like to find your birth parents? And he's like, no.
Did you also tell them that there's not a beach for 1,000 miles?
Exactly. That was what blew me away. Okay, so stay with me here. So the more it happened and the more kids that showed up, it started getting weirder and weirder to me, because I would see them come around a corner and it was like there was a honing system. Honing?
I don't know.
I have to look that up. Towards our table.
It's a homing pigeon.
Yeah.
So it must be homing, right? But then you hone in on something.
I know. That's why I'm confused.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. We'll fix that.
We got to look that up. And Cassandra. Cassandra is honing in on us. Got a lot to do in this break that's coming up, Julie.
Okay. So the kids would get this crazed look in their eyes as soon as they went around the corner, and they would make a beeline. And so soon there was just they were lining up in front of the table, waiting for their turn, so no adults could get through to ask us legit questions.
Oh, no.
And then it was nuts. So, and that was fine. I mean, it was not fine. But then eventually I told my boss to put the beach balls away, because actually Saturday, the last day, is family day, and that's when you give everything away.
I see. I thought you were going to say that you ran out of beach balls and there was a riot.
No, but I was scared we were going to.
Yeah. Okay.
For the day that we're supposed to have them. Yeah. Okay, fast forward to the day that we're supposed to have them. Mm-hmm. This is Saturday. I've now been here 3 days, and I have hit the wall. I get to a point where I need to exit now. And I know that is happening when my sensor stops working.
What sensor?
I have when I am dealing with people from a different background as myself. I'm very polite and I try not to shock anybody. But it got to where I just stopped like stifling my first thought, which is what I usually do. But this time,
But I would assume you'd be meeting a lot of like-minded people if they're there at RootsTech.
Absolutely. But this is when the kids came back on that last day, and I was like 2 hours away from getting on my plane and going home. So the kids came back with the beach balls, and we were like, okay, fine, let's give them all the beach balls. But I was so tired, and then my boss started saying, okay, you can have a beach ball. You have to wear this sticker. And they would he would actually word it like, wear this sticker. And they would get this look on this face like, nope. And then he'd say, and then you'll get a beach ball.
Oh, I see.
And then they'd be like, oh, okay. And finally he said it in a way to one kid, very small child. And I could not help myself. And I said, and that's what we call a quid pro quo.
Oh, my God. Do you know I didn't know quid pro quo until I saw Silence of the Lambs?
The president didn't know quid pro quo until somebody told him about it.
I don't know that I'd ever heard that said before.
You know what? I had, but I truthfully didn't know what it was until this whole thing that just happened in our country.
Right.
I mean, I'd heard the phrase, but I never actually was able to break it down and figure out what it was.
Let alone know that you'd end up using it at a
genealogy
convention, giving
On a child.
giving it beach balls.
So I'd like to apologize to that child's mother now before I get a cease and desist.
Well, I'm sure he took off
it was a she.
I'm sure she took off the little sticker by now.
Oh, probably. No, actually, we tattooed it to her forehead. That was part of the deal.
Oh, and then as she left, you took out a little hat pin and broke the beach ball.
Oh, they had to blow them up themselves.
Oh, good.
Yeah. We made them work for it. Let me see. Second thing, I met quite a few listeners.
Oh, that's great.
That was so nice. The first night, Aniko Kling I met, who was divine, and she has skin like butter. So it was really nice to meet you, Aniko. Who else? A lady named Lily. I think it's Lily McCutcheon, came by a couple times. Some other, I'm sorry, I can't remember everybody's names.
But what was your interaction like? I mean, they came up and said, we're listeners of the podcast, or, how did...
I gave them a hug.
Yeah.
Which I probably shouldn't have done.
Well.
And you know what? Several people pointed at my boss and asked if that was you.
Oh, really?
I guess they thought that we were and they were very excited and then very disappointed that it wasn't you.
Oh, no.
It's true.
Oh,
Isn't that cute?
Very sweet, actually.
Yeah, people, more than one person said, I love him so much. I think they like you better than me, frankly.
That's
In fact,
impossible.
You're fired. Okay.
Thank you, President Trump.
Heaven forbid.
Don't steal my thunder, or you're out.
Oh gosh! And then we were talking to these other exhibitors the first night on our way out, and they were we were just talking. One of them was a genetic genealogist as well, and somebody looked at my lanyard and said, "You're Julie Dixon Jackson," and I was like, "Yes," and she goes, "I love your podcast."
Oh, that's so nice.
That was the craziest thing, and that was Diana and Nicole from the Research Like a Pro podcast.
Oh, so they were fellow podcasters.
Yes.
That makes it even nicer.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they were lovely. I was gonna get together. Actually, I was gonna do a little interview with them, but I just didn't have time. Time got away from me. So, guys, if you're listening now, let's get in touch and we'll do a phone interview.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to do a little crossover.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They were really nice. I wish I'd got to spend some more time with them. Who else? I met Johnny Pearl in person finally.
Oh, wow, great.
Creator of DNA Painter. Who else? Oh, gosh, it'll come to me. I said hello to Blaine Bettinger, which was fun. And, I didn't go to any actual presentations because I was working.
Yes.
Except for I did see Lisa Louise Cook, who is another genealogist. And she also has a podcast called The Genealogy Gems.
God, does everybody have a podcast now?
Pretty much, yeah. No, she was before me. But she gave one about Google Earth Pro. Ways that you can use Google Earth Pro in your genealogy research, which was really, really cool.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
You mean to find places where your relatives have lived?
I've talked about that before. I've talked about that I use Google Earth to find addresses of people that I'm related to, and then I screenshot it and put it on my tree. She took it to a next level to where you can actually map out like somebody's footsteps.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so I'm going to look into that a little more. Maybe I'll talk to you guys about it, about how to do that.
It sounds like it was a very fruitful weekend.
It was, and it was nice. And I have to say, Salt Lake is lovely.
Yes.
It's a beautiful little city. Flying in there is gorgeous, surrounded by snow-covered mountains. Yeah. And they have a really nice little downtown, lots of nice little restaurants and hotels. The cold was not bad at all. It was refreshing. I loved it. I loved it.
I only went there once, and it was just I only flew in and then went up to Park City to go skiing.
Sure.
And it was just beautiful.
Yes, Park City's gorgeous. I've never been there. The last time I was there was like 22 years ago, right after I got married. My husband was working on the movie Con Air. Uh-huh. And they were shooting actually in Ogden, so I went and hung out in Ogden with all the boys.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
Did he get you a part in that movie?
No, he tried.
I
I remember. I don't know if have you seen the movie?
No, but my my hairdryer is made by Conair.
Not the same thing. Okay. It's about this guy that is played by
I couldn't tell you.
No,
I've never
you
seen
have
it.
to know.
I've never seen the movie.
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, all right.
So Nick Cage plays this guy named something Poe who just got out of prison. It's a long story, but he has a wife, and by the time they started shooting, they hadn't cast his wife yet.
Oh, that would have been so
cool.
I
know. So my husband and she had like a couple scenes. So my husband was like, they might use, because he knew the director. Mm-hmm. And he's like, maybe I can get you in there. Fast forward, it didn't work. They ended up casting Monica Potter, who has an amazing career. Anyway.
I don't know who that is.
It was one of her first things. She was on Parenthood, the movie,
right.
the series Parenthood.
Wow.
Anyway, and her kid went to my kid's school.
You know what? It was their loss, Julie.
You know,
because I think you could have acted circles around Monica Potter in that role. Circles around Nicolas Cage, for that matter.
Nobody can act circles around Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is his own one-man.
He is, but you're a swirling maelstrom of feminine supremacy.
Right, and he is a swirling maelstrom of crazy.
Exactly. Maybe that's why they didn't hire you. It was going to be like
too much,
like the Tasmanian Devils coming together.
That, and they didn't audition me. Okay, there's that too. So why don't we take a break and then come back and talk a little more about RootsTech?
Sounds great.
Okay.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Or consider supporting us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans Podcast. Now back to Julie and me.
All right, let's just get this corrections corner out of the way now.
We're so quick with these corrections.
I know.
We don't even wait until the following week. We do it right in the break.
I know, we do. Although there are other ones that are going to have to wait until next week because I have to get these out now.
Okay.
Okay, so home in or hone in? What do you think?
I'm going to say that hone in sounds better because it
sounds fancier.
Yeah.
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 All right, so here's the answer. Home in, H-O-M-E, is the more common phrase for figuratively or literally finding and moving directly towards something. So when I was talking about it before, it was correct.
Okay.
They were homing in.
And with honing
then hone in is also acceptable but far less common and comes from the meaning of hone, referring to sharpening or making more acute.
Well, the reason I chose hone then is because it is less acceptable or less
that makes
common,
perfect sense.
less common and cute.
Yeah, and I
oh, you said acute.
Oh. It's acute.
It's cute. I'm cute and I like to hone in. I never home in on anything.
All right.
Oh, and we looked up Cassandra.
We looked up Cassandra.
She's a Greek character in Greek mythology.
Her parents were Hecuba. Apparently, there's just one parent.
I only know Harold Hecuba from the Gilligan's
Nope.
Island. No? All right.
She was a woman in Greek mythology cursed to utter true prophecies, but never to be believed. So she was basically the bearer of bad news, and nobody believed her. That's a bummer.
But she was right.
She was a prophet.
See, now there's the part I didn't know. Like when I thought of a Cassandra,
I
just thought she was Debbie Downer, who just saw the worst of everything.
Glass half
but
empty.
no, she saw the worst of everything, and it was true.
She was a veritable Nostradamus.
She was a swirling maelstrom of feminine negativity. And just like women up through the centuries, she was not believed.
Okay.
Tell me more about the conference.
So, interestingly enough, 23andMe was noticeably absent from RootsTech.
Oh.
That's huge.
Why do you think?
Because the big four companies are always there.
Yeah, but why do you think that they were absent?
I think it's because of the recent layoffs, probably. And I have a feeling they may be restructuring.
Okay. You don't think it had anything to do with the whole coronavirus scare or anything? I mean,
no, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Because you sort of were there before it all really hit.
There was talk of it, but it was like, and I felt like I was coming down with something the whole time, and I think that was probably my, suggestion of.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You were being a Cassandra?
I was being a Cassandra.
But then it would have been true.
It may
but you never
still
did.
be.
No.
Okay. I hope not. So they weren't there. And I also noticed something. So there was this pilot program on 23andMe that's been in beta, different than the tree thing that I've been talking about.
Okay.
So somebody asked if they knew why they've stopped supporting links to family search trees. meaning people have trees on Family Search, and they were letting people have links. They were offering it for beta testers, but the option to do so seems to have disappeared. And somebody responded, here's the email that I got directly from 23andMe. Hello, thank you for participating in our Family Search integration pilot. We're writing to inform you that this pilot period is coming to a close on February 18th. After that date, your uploaded tree will be deleted from the 23andMe website, and you will no longer be able to access 23andMe's Family Search Family Tree Upload Management page. You do not need to take any action. This will not affect your tree on Family Search's website, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, they tried it and then ditched it, I guess. And
they didn't give any reason, it's just coming to an end.
They didn't. And I'm thinking possibly 23andMe may be restructuring. Because I think they're finally realizing, and this is, by the way, this is punditry. This is all my opinion.
Oh, okay.
But I think that the layoffs had to happen because all their sales slowed down, because they're not it's a one-time deal. You buy the test, and then you then you get your results, and that's it.
There's no membership like there is with Ancestry.
There's no membership. There's no trees. There's no search option. There's none of that stuff that you have on Ancestry for a fee. But that's precisely why I like Ancestry so much.
Because there's so many other things you can do.
There's so many other options. Yeah. The tree building is so helpful, and it's just...
I see.
Yeah, it's just a better platform. I'm sorry, 23andMe. Love you. I hope they do restructure.
And then maybe they'll be back at RootsTech next year.
Yeah, it was very strange.
It is strange because they're such a big player to not have them there. Yeah.
I really think it's because of the layoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they would have felt bad if they went to this big, huge convention after they fired a bunch of people. This is fun. So my husband's cousin, Deirdre, who is a listener, saw that I was at RootsTech, and she has a friend that is a fellow organizer. They do organizing stuff. And she was also at RootsTech, and she is an adoptive parent. And she said that she has a great story that she would like for her to tell me. And she's been trying to get us together, and we never have. And she's like, you're both there at the same time. You have to find each other.
Okay.
So finally, and like we were all on the same thread, finally she was like, okay, I'm at this. This is where I am. And I looked at the number, and I looked at the map, and then I looked up from my map, and she was directly across from me in this huge place. There she was.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah. So that was Kathy Nelson, who I actually ended up doing an interview with her that you guys are going to hear in a couple weeks. It was terrific, and we bonded immediately.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah.
I'm glad you're able to do interviews while you were there.
Yeah, a little bit, not as many as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But
when you were working, it's hard to get away and
so much.
Take the time.
You know what I noticed? So people that came up to the table, a lot of people. First of all, I would inwardly mock people who would come up and look at us, look at our sign, and then just say, "What do you people do?"
Because it's called
we're called Birth Parent Finder, so it's pretty much self-descriptive. But
right.
You know, a lot. First of all, a huge amount of people who had adopted children from China that wanted to find out if we could find their biological families in China.
And can you?
No, we cannot.
Oh,
it's China.
Yeah.
There's no DNA testing that we have access to,
right.
and there's no records. There's nothing
right.
that we can do yet. Somebody did mention that I think they are sending people in with DNA tests to give people while they're there to build a database. I mean, that sounds like slow going, but it's proactive.
I mean, how many? It's one of the most populated countries on the planet. So
indeed. Also, we got an enormous amount of adoptive parents with their children that they had adopted, asking us if we could help them find their biological families.
Oh, that's neat.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It made me feel so good to see how open and willing they were
right.
to recognize that it's important that these children know their histories.
Sure.
Yeah. It was great.
Hopefully the kids knew about it before they walked up to the table.
Oh my gosh. One man came up and he said, so our daughter was donor conceived.
Okay.
And we've never told her. And she's in her early 20s. And we don't know how to tell her. And I said, well, she's going to find out, so I would do it sooner or later. And he said, well, I've broached the subject before, and she acted like she didn't want to know. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I mean, how do you broach that without giving it away?
I know. It's
Right?
weird. But he said she seemed disinterested, like maybe she knows deep down but doesn't want to talk about it. I don't know. It was very strange.
How does she know deep down? I mean, really, like, you don't know that. That's not something you know, right? Is it?
That's interesting.
Everybody has a feeling that they don't belong somewhere, I think. And it's a natural human feeling.
See, I wouldn't know. That's interesting that you say that. I mean, yeah, adoptees who've always known they are adopted, we don't get the benefit of having that inside because we know. Most MPEs that I speak with say that they've always felt different, that they knew that there was something different. But I wonder if that's just something that everybody feels.
That's an interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I can only answer it from someone who wasn't adopted. I felt that way too.
But you were different because you're a weirdo.
I'm a weirdo. Yeah. And I knew it. But I mean, I think it's a human thing to feel like you're alone or you're the only one that feels this way. I do.
I felt like I was the only one who felt that way.
Yeah. And that's part of it. I mean, that's
interesting.
Yeah. I'm not saying I can't speak for you and that it was the same as it was for me.
Right.
But, who knows?
I think those of us who are more creative and more artistic, I think just because, especially in this society, if you're not sports minded, if you're not one of those families that goes to games and,
right,
is very,
exactly.
I think just by nature, by virtue of that, because there are way more of them than us, I think we all feel like outsiders because of that.
I think that's a very interesting and probably truthful hypothesis.
Yeah.
I really do, because I told you my dad was a big sports star, and
mine too.
and I got none of that in my DNA. None of it.
Well, maybe you did, but you ignored it.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like I wasn't drawn to it in any way.
Me neither. You know that joke, like people would say, yeah, I don't play sports because I don't like balls flying at my face.
Yeah.
That was me.
It wasn't even just that. It was more like I just had no interest in it. Like even today, the game is on, I look at it and it's like I'm looking at a foreign language that I've never seen before. I look at it, I have no idea what's going on and couldn't care less.
That's how I am with football, with American football, because none of it makes sense. Yeah. I do like basketball and I like Australian rules football. You should watch it.
Really?
It's
I still doubt that I would get it.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, fine. Okay. Should we break again?
Yes.
Story time after this.
Thank you for listening to Cut Off Jeans with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. You can support us by going to patreon.com/Cutoff Jeans podcast. Now, back to the program.
All right, we're back, and it is story time.
Yay!
This is Alicia Valadao, who is a listener, and
did she reach out to you?
Nope, I reached out to her.
Oh, wow!
Because I do that. I've seen her in a few of the groups, and she has a lot to say and an interesting story.
Yay! Let's hear part one.
All right, let's. Hey guys, I have Alicia Valadao on the line. It's Alicia, not Alicia, right?
Alicia, yes.
Alicia Valadao. Hey, thanks for taking my call, Alicia.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you have a story to tell us. So why don't you start at the best place you see fit to start and tell us your story?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of writing a memoir. I'm like 40,000 words into it because it is such an expansive story. And when you find out something like this, it like changes your whole world and even takes you back to places you thought that you would never go back to again.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, I'm going to try to like do some bullet points and then you guys will understand that this is just so expansive. But basically, my story starts probably with November 2017. That's when I first took an ancestry DNA test. And basically, at that time, I was just interested in my ancestry. I had believed that I was a quarter Portuguese my entire life because of my last name. And I was just curious to see, what exactly I was. And so at the end of like mid-January 2018 is when I got my test results back. And I found out for the first time that I was not Portuguese. And so that was a little weird. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make sense. But then I started researching that my great-grandparents were from the Azore Islands, and that was very multi-ethnic. So it was easy for me to kind of explain that away with, hey, to my dad. I was like, hey, Dad, we're probably not as Portuguese as we think we are.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I said, we're probably, we're more British. And, there were British people that did visit the Azore Islands. And my dad was like, oh my gosh, like, that's crazy. Like, that's interesting, but, surprising, but, nothing more came of it.
Okay. Does your dad look Portuguese at all?
He does. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
It's just funny because like my dad, like looking back on everything, like, he and I look nothing alike. So to find out that my dad is not my biological father, looking back on it, it's like, oh my gosh, like no duh. Like,
yeah. All those signs that you just were like, well,
like we look nothing alike. Yeah. And we're so different in so many ways. And the ways in which we are alike is purely because of nature, like
nurture.
Of nurturing, purely because of me wanting so much to be like him and be loved by him. And so other than that, though, we're very different people. And so 2018 was like a year of like after that, I kind of forgot about ancestry stuff. There was a lot of other things going on in my life. And then always around the holidays, because I grew up in California. And I live on the East Coast now. Mm-hmm. And so I only visit my family twice a year. So when I go home for Christmas or a holiday, I start thinking about family history stuff. And I'm like really always have been connected with genealogy. And so at this time, it was December 2018. And I said, I know nothing about my mom's side of the family. She came from a very troubled past. And so the only family that I knew was my father's family. In fact, my dad's mother raised me from the age of 7 years old and up. So there's a lot of family stuff that's also going to be part of my memoir because there's a lot of traumas and things like that. The only family I knew, basically, it turns out I'm not even genetically related to any of them. But at this time, I thought that I was, and I just wanted to learn more about my mom's side. So I said, hey, Mom, would you be willing to do a DNA test for me? And she said, sure, I'd like to do that. And then I asked my paternal grandmother if she would do a DNA test as well, because I was interested to see what I got from my grandma that I grew up to be so close with and loved so much. Uh-huh. And she agreed to do that as well. And then February rolls around, and February 6th, 2019, I got my grandma's DNA results, and she was not a match to me at all. Like she was not showing up on my match list. And so I thought, well, I'm going to figure it out, And so I went to the DNA detectives group. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, what would be a cause for why my grandmother is not showing as a match? Like she should be showing up top, close family match. What's going on here? And in that group, there was a mixture of responses. Some people responded with a laughing emoji and said, oh, isn't that funny? You just found out your dad's not your dad. And then some people were like, well, don't worry about it. It's going to show up in a day or two, or just call Ancestry. It's probably a settings issue. So I was like, very concerned.
What people on DNA detectives told you that they thought it was just it'll take a couple days to populate or something?
Yes, some people did. Yeah. So then
that's so weird. Why? I would think that they would know better than that.
I know. When your world is potentially about to be uprooted, you're like, I'm going to hold on to that little beacon of potential.
Yes. Yes. I remember doing the same thing.
Yeah. So then the next day I'm at work and, I didn't sleep at all the night before. There's no way in heck, like I could have slept through not knowing what's going on. So then I'm at work and I'm a school counselor and I'm thinking I can't counsel high school kids today. I need to know what the heck is going on. So I was just distracted at work all day. The first thing I did after work that day was call my dad. And I said, hey, Dad, grandma's not showing up as a match to me. If she doesn't show up soon, then we probably are going to have an issue. But I just want you to know that there's something going on, but I'm going to call Ancestry. So I talked to my dad on my drive home. I had a 30-minute drive, and I said, Dad, I really need to know, like, is there anything I need to know before I call Ancestry up? Because this is, if there is something, I need to know about it. And my dad said, no, like, you're my daughter. Like, your mom and I were dating for a full steady 9 months before she ever got pregnant with you. And we did not get married until you were 4 months old. He's like, there's no doubt in my mind that you're my daughter. So there's got to be something wrong with the ancestry test thing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, Dad, if that's what you think. So, and then he said, your mom is freaking out and like in tears and thinks that you're destroying her life and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, great. Like, this is not good. So I called Ancestry and I just, I said, hey, like, can you check the settings for me in this situation? This is my grandma and she's not showing as a match to me. The lady on Ancestry, like with Ancestry, was super sweet, kind to me, nice to me. And she, was like, let me check, sometimes it can be, if you're using, she even went along with it a little bit. And I was like, okay, maybe there is a settings issue. And then she pulled everything up and she got really quiet. Oh. And yeah. And then she said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get into your personal business, but this woman is no relationship to you via DNA. And she said, is there any way that your dad is adopted? And I said, no, my grandma was an 18-year-old virgin when she married my papa. She's like, this woman that you believe is your grandma is really not your grandma unless your dad was adopted. And I said, well, there's no way that my dad was adopted, but, I'll ask. But that's not going to be the truth. So I said, so basically, if my dad's not adopted, then my dad's not my dad. And she said, right, like, that's what that means. And so I called my grandma and I said, Grandma, was dad adopted?
Wow, just putting it out there.
Yeah. And she said, no. She's like, your dad was not adopted. He's my first child. I never did anything with any other man but your grandpa. Why are you asking me this? And I said, well, because Grandma, you're not biologically my grandma. And so that means that if Dad is your son, then my dad is not my biological father. And then she started getting upset and she's like, oh my gosh, like, I should never have let you do my DNA. Like, I feel so bad. And I said, no, like, and at first, when you're first finding this out, I wasn't really, well, for me anyway, it was so much happening so quickly that my mind was kind of racing a million miles a minute. And I'm just trying to stay afloat. Yeah. And I wasn't mad. Like, there was no emotions. It was just pure, like, I need information.
Yeah, I got to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, like, I need to get to the bottom of this. I need information. I need to know what the heck is going on. And so she was like, you're handling this so well. And I'm thinking in my head, I guess. Like, I mean,
that's because you're in shock. The trauma comes later.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm handling this so well because I need facts. But so she started to tell me some information, like, she's like, well, your mom has a history of trauma. And she's like, your mom is not quite normal. And I said, yes, we're very aware of this. This is why you had to raise me from the time I was age of 7 and up. Oh. So I said, so what did my mom tell you back in the day? And she started telling me more about how my mom would tell her things like, well, I didn't tell your son to marry me. He didn't have to marry me. I'm a messed up person. And, all of this stuff. So then my grandma started thinking, maybe your mom, slept with some different people and was feeling guilty about it, but couldn't outright say it. Right. So she said that she did have like her doubts that maybe I wasn't my dad's child. But she said the moment that she met me, she knew that I didn't have a chance. Like, I mean, if my grandma hadn't have like stepped in, like, honestly, like, my life, like, it was not a perfect life by any means, but it could have been by far worse because my mother's situation, like, the first 3 months of my life, I was living with my maternal grandmother, my mom's mother. And that was a woman who had encouraged my mom to abort me because she said that back in her day, if abortion had been legal, she might have aborted some of her 7 kids that she had. Wow. And so she basically told my mom, you have options that I didn't have, and you should abort your child if you don't feel ready. And my mom, thankfully, I mean, I'm glad I'm alive here. Thankfully, my mom, she's like, I'm not ready for a kid, but I don't want to do that. Like, I want my child. So my dad, believing I was his, stepped in and was like, I'm going to man up at 23 years old. It's time to grow up, and it's time to take care of this child. And my grandma encouraged him to do that. And my grandma, when she met me, she said, I fell in love with you. And it didn't matter to me what the truth was at that point. So I didn't pry, and I didn't think about it anymore, and I let it be. And so then I talked to my mom for the first time. So I reached out to dad first, then grandma, and then my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I said, Mom, like, DNA doesn't lie, and I want to teach you like that DNA is real and you can believe science. Mm-hmm. And she, said, well, I don't understand how this can be true, because I really did believe that your dad was your dad. But if he isn't your dad, I have no idea really who it could be. And so then I said, well, Mom, I really wish that you could give me some sort of a name, some sort of like information to kind of figure this out, because it's not right that, I was helping, this is also something else I didn't mention, but I was helping my mom find her biological father too. She didn't have a dad growing up, and the man listed on her birth certificate was born in Mexico. And if you look at me and there's no Mexican ancestry in me as well.
Yeah.
And so I knew that was a total NPE situation. And so I did know a little bit about what an NPE, non-paternity event, was, because I was solving her case. And I actually did find out who my mom's biological father was, but he passed in 2012. Okay. But so I told her, I said, Mom, look, I wanted to help you find your biological father, because I wanted to know what my biological grandpa looked like, and I wanted you to know what your dad looked like. Yeah. So keep that in mind. And now when I'm trying to help you and trying to fix some pieces that are missing in our family tree, I come to find out that my own father is not my biological father. How do you think that makes me feel? And then she burst into tears, and she was like, I'm so sorry. Like, when she heard it that way, she was like, I am so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to repeat the cycle. And I wish I could help you. But she basically ended up giving me a guy's name that out of like desperation. Uh-huh. And I jumped on it because I was young and dumb and wasn't that savvy with DNA back then. Uh-huh. And I was like, I'm going to go down this little rabbit trail. And I potentially, I found a potential half sister. I bought her a DNA test. That went nowhere. Like, she was not my sister.
I've done that. I did that 3 times.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
It's just off of clues that I thought my mother was giving me.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Horrific. But so then after that, I hit my rock bottom moment in March of 2019. And I said, you know what? Enough listening to people's stories. Uh-huh. I'm purely going to look at the DNA here, because the DNA is the only thing that's going to tell me the truth. And so thankfully, I did a lot of work myself, but then I got stuck because it's kind of complicated. But basically, my biological grandfather was a fraternal twin. So that made things a little it just got a little confusing in certain areas. So I had to enlist the help of some free DNA angels. Uh-huh. And those DNA angels are truly, absolutely amazing people. I love them to death. Yep. Because they, within a few days, were able to say, you are definitely a product of these 2 people. They had 5 sons and 2 daughters. So we encourage you to reach out to these people and explain your story and see if they'd be willing to talk to you. So I did that. I went on Facebook and I said a little bit about myself. And then I said, you are either my uncle, my aunt, or my biological father. So if you know any information, please, call me.
All right. That is the end of part 1 of Alicia's story.
Terrific.
Okay. Should we do some shout outs?
Yes, to our Patreon patrons.
Shout outs. Oh, Jenna Robertson, our friend in Las Vegas, has become a patron. Thank you, Jenna.
Oh, thank you, Jenna.
Appreciate it. Who else? Mary Wood.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Michelle C.
Thank you, Michelle.
And let's leave it at that. We'll do some more next week.
Sounds good. We really appreciate you patronizing us.
That is so patronizing. Okay. All right. Tell people about you.
I am Richard Castle. I was born in a small town. They called me Mildred with the shabby shoes. That's a Mildred Fierce reference from Carol Burnett's show, people.
Shocking.
Anyway, I'm Richard Castle. I have a website, richardcastle.com, that talks about when I'm not on this podcast, that I play the piano and write musicals and write songs. You can also follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs.
Boom. I am Julie Dixon Jackson. You can find me on the Twitter at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. Find the podcast on the Twitter at CutOff Jeans Pod. Find us on Facebook, CutOff Jeans Podcast. And you can send me an email, julesjackson@cutoffjeans.com, if you would like to tell your story. Please reach out to me there or the Facebook page, whichever you prefer.
Julie, what do all those people at RootsTech know now that they didn't know before they met you?
They know that the truth is in your jeans.